Okay, let's unpack this right from the jump. I have to be honest with you. When I first pulled this source material out of the pile for this week's deep dive, I actually thought there was a mistake in the filing system.
Oh, yeah.
I saw the word Suharen bolded at the top of the notes, and my brain just immediately went to like the sci-fi section of the library.
I can see that. It has a very specific, almost cinematic ring to it.
Right. It sounds like a faction in Dune or maybe a lost civilization buried under the Antarctic ice. I was ready for
Mhm.
aliens, secret societies, the whole nine yards. It just has that mythology vibe.
The Suharen. Yeah,
It feels like something you need a secret decoder ring to understand.
it really does. And honestly, given some of the rabbit holes we go down here, a lost civilization wouldn't be completely off the menu.
Not at all.
But what's so fascinating is that your reaction, that instinct to categorize it as a who,
Hmm.
a tribe, a species, that's exactly the first trap the source material warns us against. It sounds like a test.
Yeah, I hit that wall pretty quick. Page 1, the text explicitly says the Suharen are not a people you can point to. So if we aren't talking about a lost tribe and we aren't talking about aliens, what exactly are we unpacking today?
Well, we're unpacking a how, not a who.
A how.
The source defines the Suharen not as a biological species, not as a cultural group, and definitely not as a secret club. It defines it as a unique state of being, a mode of existence.
Okay.
Specifically, it describes it as a state that emerges when separation dissolves.
When separation dissolves. Okay, that is a heavy concept to start with. It sounds a little bit like we're about to dissolve into a puddle of goo.
It does, but it's less about physical dissolution and more about psychological integration. Our mission today is really to look at this philosophy of existence that challenges how we view our own identities.
Right.
It's proposing a shift from identity, which is often rigid, like a badge, a bio, you
Like
know,
political affiliation, yeah.
to inhabitants.
Inhabitants. I like that distinction. I mean, we live in a world that is obsessed with identity, right? We love our labels. I'm an ESTJ, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a senior project manager.
I'm a runner.
Yeah, we wear these things like armor. But this text suggests that Suharen is about dropping the armor and just residing in reality.
Precisely. It's about cooperation with reality rather
Yes.
than domination of it. And that sounds abstract, I know, but the source material is surprisingly practical.
Great.
It breaks down how this state functions, how it feels, and even how it changes the room you're standing in. It's a blueprint for a different way of operating in a high-stress world.
So let's get into the mechanics of this. If it's not a physical location, if I can't book a flight to Suhari or whatever, where does this state exist?
The text places it in the in-between.
The space in between.
Right. It lists a few specific coordinates. It says this state lives between thought and feeling, between self and world, and this is a tricky one, between knowing and becoming.
Okay, hold on. Between knowing and becoming, I feel like most of us oscillate between those two, but we don't usually hang out in the middle.
Right. Usually you feel one of two ways. Either I know this, I am an expert, I am finished, I am static.
Hmm.
That feels safe.
Right.
Or I am becoming, I am learning, I am a novice, I am incomplete. And that often feels vulnerable. We tend to view becoming as a deficit,
Yeah.
something to get over so we can get to the knowing.
Like being a student versus being a graduate, you want the diploma. You don't want to stay in school forever. You want to arrive.
Precisely. We are obsessed with arrival. But the Suharen state occupies the gap.
Hmm.
It suggests a fluidity where you are solid enough to act, that's the knowing part, but permeable enough to change,
Mhm.
that's the becoming part. You aren't rigid. You're lucid.
It reminds me a bit of the concept of flow state, where you lose that sense of self-consciousness because you're just doing the thing. You aren't thinking about being a writer or a runner. You're just writing or running. But the text makes a really specific point here that I think is crucial. It says this isn't some guru on the mountaintop enlightenment, right?
That is a vital distinction. Yeah. When we talk about dissolving separation or living in between, it's so easy to drift into New Age mysticism.
Sure, levitating monks.
We think of people who have detached from the world entirely. But the source is incredibly grounded. It says they are not elevated above others. They are simply unhidden.
Simply unhidden. That implies that the state is actually the default setting. Like, we're the ones wearing the camouflage. We're the ones piling on the layers of neuroses and defenses. And this state is just taking it all off.
That's the core argument. The text suggests that true visibility comes from clarity, not force.
What do you mean by that?
Well, in our current culture, we think visibility means being the loudest person in the room or having the most followers. That's visibility through force. This is visibility through transparency.
Which brings us to how they actually behave. Because philosophy is great, but I want to know what this looks like on a Tuesday when you're late for work and the coffee machine is broken.
Yeah.
The text contrasts action versus reaction, or maybe domination versus cooperation.
It says a Suharen does not dominate reality. They cooperate with it.
Okay, play devil's advocate here. Cooperating with reality sounds a little bit like giving up. If reality sucks, if the traffic is bad, if the boss is angry, shouldn't I be trying to dominate it? Shouldn't I be trying to change it?
That's the natural pushback.
Yeah.
We're taught that willpower conquers all, but think about the difference between swimming upstream and using the current to get where you want to go. Domination is exhausting. It requires constant energy input to maintain control.
Right.
Cooperation is about efficiency. The text lists these behaviors. They listen before acting, they feel before defining, and my personal favorite, they move when movement is needed and rest when rest is true.
Rest when rest is true. I highlighted that 3 times. We have such a toxic relationship with rest. We treat rest like a pit stop, just enough fuel to get back on the track and drive fast.
Or we treat it like a failure, like we crashed.
Yes, but
Yeah.
this frames rest as an active, truthful response to the environment.
It implies synchronization. If you're trying to dominate reality, you force movement even when the situation calls for stillness. You push for the sale when the client isn't ready.
You force the conversation when the other person is shut down.
That's domination. Cooperation is reading the room. It's knowing that sometimes the most effective action is inaction.
So it's less about being a conqueror and more about being an integrator, I think is the word used later. But before we get there, I want to unpack this list of qualities in the source.
Oh, the without list.
The without list, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they use this specific rhetorical device, defining a virtue by removing its shadow side.
It's a classic philosophical structure, and it helps strip away our misconceptions about these words.
It's really effective, though. It helps triangulate the vibe. Let's run through these, because I think they solve a lot of paradoxes we deal with in professional life. The first one, gentleness without weakness.
That's a big one, especially in leadership or parenting. We are culturally conditioned to equate gentleness with fragility. If you're gentle, you're a doormat. You'll get walked over.
Right. Nice guys finish last.
Yeah.
We think you have to be hard to survive.
Exactly. But the text argues for a gentleness that is durable. Think about water. Water is gentle, it flows around obstacles, it yields to your hand, but give it time, and it carves the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
It's the capacity to handle things with care because you were steady, not because you were afraid to break them.
I like that image. Having a soft touch because you have a steady hand, not a shaking one. Okay, the next one is clarity without rigidity.
This is the antidote to dogmatism. Rigidity is, I have the answer, this is the way we've always done it, I will not change my mind. That's fragile. If you push on rigidity, it snaps. Clarity is different. Clarity is, I see the situation exactly as it is right now, and I know what to do right now. But, and this is key, if the light changes, if new information comes in, clarity allows you to shift.
Yeah.
Rigidity snaps. Clarity adapts.
Then we have strength without aggression.
This is the distinction between power and force. Aggression is strength that feels the need to prove itself. It needs an opponent. It needs to win.
It's insecure.
It is. True strength, in the Suharen context, just is.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to push anyone down to verify that it's standing up. It's self-evident. You feel safe around true strength. You feel anxious around aggression.
And the last one in this set, which I think is the most profound for our social media age, presence without demand.
Oh, absolutely. Think about walking into a networking event or a party. You meet certain people,
Mhm.
and their presence just screams, look at me, validate me, listen to my pitch, laugh at my joke.
It's a vacuum. They are sucking the air out of the room. You leave the conversation feeling tired.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's a demanding presence. It's a tax on your energy. A Suharen presence is fully there. They aren't dissociated or checking their phone, but they aren't asking for anything from you. They aren't demanding your attention or your approval.
The text calls it a gift, not a tax. That really stuck with me. And that connects to how they talk about belonging. The source says they do not insist on belonging. They belong by coherence. What does that even mean to you?
Well, look at how we usually handle belonging. It's a negotiation. We perform. We wear the right clothes, use the right corporate buzzwords, signal our politics. We are constantly saying, I am one of you, please accept me. That is insisting on belonging.
It's exhausting, and it's insecure, because if you have to earn it, you can lose it.
Belonging by coherence suggests that you belong simply because you fit the reality of the moment. It makes sense there, like a tree belongs in a forest. The tree doesn't have to ask the other trees for permission.
It just
It
is.
just grows there. It
Yep.
coheres with the ecosystem.
That circles back to inhabitants versus identity. If you are just inhabiting your space, you belong naturally. You don't need the identity badge to prove it.
And because of that internal security, the text notes that they trust timing. They don't rush to be understood.
That is incredibly difficult. I feel like if someone misunderstands me, my immediate reflex is to correct the record. No, that's not what I meant. Let me explain. I want to fix the perception immediately.
We all do. We live in an information environment that demands instant takes and instant clarity. To not rush to be understood requires a tremendous amount of internal safety. You have to be okay with being misunderstood for a little while, trusting that coherence will eventually emerge. It's a long game.
So we've got this picture of someone who is calm, coherent, not pushing, not demanding. But the text warns us that historically, people in this state are often mislabeled.
Yeah.
It lists a bunch of roles: mystics, healers, wanderers, children, outsiders.
It's a categorization problem. The human brain hates ambiguity. If we see someone who is gentle and quiet, we file them under a mystic or spiritual. If someone is playful and present, we think child. If they don't follow the herd, we label them an outsider or a rebel.
We try to push them to the fringes. Oh, you're weird. You go over there.
Right. But the source says they are none of these by default. They are integrators.
Integrators. That sounds almost corporate, but the definition is beautiful. It says they bring parts back together within themselves, between people, and between worlds.
Think about a heated meeting. We've all been there. Tensions are high. Sales is yelling at engineering. Everyone is entrenched in their identity.
Yep.
Then one person speaks up. Maybe they haven't said anything for 20 minutes, and they say something that just bridges the gap. They connect the two realities.
They don't flip the table. They don't pick a side.
No. The text says they do not reject structure. They soften it.
Soften it. That's a key distinction. They aren't anarchists trying to burn the building down. They're making the building flexible enough so it doesn't collapse in an earthquake.
Exactly. They make the system livable. But there is a line in this section that I think we need to pause on because it's a bit visceral. It describes how they handle difficulty. It says, they do not reject pain. They metabolize it.
Yeah. Metabolize pain. That stopped me in my tracks. It's such a biological way to describe emotion. It sounds messy.
It is, and it's a very different model than what we are used to.
Yeah.
Usually we have two strategies for pain. Strategy A is rejection. I'm not listening to this. I'm putting up a wall. I'm fine.
Denial. Repression. The stiff upper lip.
And strategy B is hoarding. We hold on to the pain, we replay it, we let it define us, we carry it around like a heavy backpack. I'm a victim of X, or I will never forgive Y.
We let it rot inside us.
Right. But metabolizing is what your body does with food. You take it in, you break it down, you extract what is useful, the nutrients, the lessons, the energy, and then critically, you pass the waste. You let the rest go.
That's the key part. You don't keep the waste. You are transformed by the experience, you got the nutrients, but you aren't clogged by it.
And that embodiment is why the text says they embody knowledge rather than just knowing it. A metabolizer is someone who has processed their experience, and that connects to why they often appear quiet in loud systems.
The text says, not because they lack voice, but because they do not compete for attention.
In a loud system like social media or a dysfunctional family, everyone is screaming to be heard. To speak quietly, or to not speak at all until you have something coherent to say, is almost an act of rebellion.
It's an act of confidence. If you know your truth is coherent, you don't need to scream it. You don't need the megaphone.
And that leads us to the proof. If these Suharen folks aren't screaming and they aren't wearing a badge, how do we know they are there? The source gives us a specific metric. It calls it the signature.
And I love this because it's not visual, it's atmospheric. The text says, where the Suharen walk, tension lowers slightly.
Note the modifier there, slightly.
Not dramatically, just enough to notice. That is so understated.
It's realistic.
Yeah.
If someone walks into a room and suddenly everything is perfect and magical and all your problems are solved, that's a fairy tale. That's a messiah complex.
Totally.
But if someone walks into a tense room and suddenly shoulders drop an inch, or the tone of voice shifts from aggressive to conversational, that is real. That is the Suharen signature.
It's the difference between saving the world and making the world livable. The text explicitly makes that contrast.
They do not save the world. They make it livable.
I find that incredibly relieving, honestly. The hero archetype, which is huge in our culture, think of every superhero movie, tells us we have to save the world. We have to fix everything. That is a crushing burden. It leads to burnout.
It leads to a God complex, or it leads to despair because you realize you can't save everyone.
Exactly.
But to make a space livable, that is achievable. That is sustainable. If you can make your home, your office, your Zoom call just a little more livable, you are doing the work. You are metabolizing the tension.
It makes me think about the energy vampire concept. People who suck the life out of a room. This is the opposite. It's like an energy ventilator. They just let a little fresh air in.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And because they aren't trying to be heroes, they aren't judgmental, they aren't trying to fix you, they are just creating a condition, an atmosphere where you can be yourself with a little less armor.
So we've covered the what, the how, and the signature. Now we have to talk about the who. Because at the beginning, I was ready for this to be a chosen few, the Jedi Order, a special bloodline.
Right.
But the ending of the source material flips that completely.
It democratizes the entire concept. It says, anyone can be Suharen. No one needs to claim it.
A Suharen is not born special, which is great news for those of us who weren't born with a prophecy attached to our name. The text says they become visible when they stop abandoning themselves.
That phrase, stop abandoning themselves, is the key that unlocks the whole document. It brings us back to that first point about separation dissolving.
What does self-abandonment actually look like, though? Because I think we do it so often we don't even notice.
It's the split. It's when you silence your own intuition to please the room. It's when you say yes to a commitment when your whole body is screaming no. We abandon our own reality to fit into someone else's expectations. We wear the mask so tight we forget what's underneath.
We split in two, the me that I am and the me that I perform for the world.
Exactly. And the text gives us a checklist for what it feels like when you stop doing that. When you begin to integrate those two halves, it says you are moving in the Suharen way when you feel at home in your body.
When your voice does not fight your heart. That's a powerful one.
It means integrity. It means what you say aligns with what you feel. And the one that really lands for me, when your presence does not require justification.
When your presence does not require justification, how much time do we spend trying to justify why we are here, why we matter, why we take up space?
To simply be, without the apology, without the resume, without the excuse, that is the state of inhabitants. That is coherence. It's the feeling of, I am here, and that is enough.
It really circles back to that core theme. It is not an identity to wear. You don't put on a t-shirt that says Team Suharen. It is a state to inhabit.
And that distinction is vital. Identity is often rigid. It's a shell. Inhabitance is fluid. It's a living breath. You inhabit your body. You inhabit the moment. You don't wear the moment like a costume.
The text ends with this beautiful, slightly haunting idea. It says, the Suharen are not coming. They have always been here, appearing wherever coherence returns.
It's a reminder that this isn't a new invention. It's a return. It's a perennial state of human potential. It's not a destination we are traveling to far off in the future. It's something that's already in the room, waiting for the noise to die down.
Waiting for us to take off the armor.
And waiting for the tension to lower slightly.
This has been such a refreshing deep dive. It's not often we get a source that is so poetic, but also so intensely practical.
Yeah.
It's basically saying, be gentle, be clear, stop fighting yourself, and don't try to be a superhero. Just make things livable.
And trust that if you do that, you belong. Not because you forced your way in, but because you cohere with the reality around you.
So that brings us to the end of our exploration. We usually try to leave you with a takeaway, but today I think the message is pretty clear. Align your voice with your heart, stop abandoning yourself. But here's the thought I want to leave you with. Something to chew on as you go about your day.
We talked about the signature, that tangible proof of presence, which is the lowering of tension.
Right. So the next time you walk into a room, whether it's your kitchen, your office, or a crowded bus, ask yourself, what is your signature right now? In this exact moment, does the tension around you go up or does it go down?
It's a question of atmosphere. What weather are you bringing with you?
And if you notice the tension going up, what is one small thing you could metabolize rather than reject to shift that signature back toward coherence? Just a little bit, just enough to notice. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Take care.